With a WWE star accusing airport security of assault and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Explaining how he was never actually arrested during his reign as WWE Champion, Rob Van Dam said on his one-of-a-kind podcast, "Here's where my legacy will go down in their community, and it's so much BS. Everything is so much BS. I just haven't bothered to comment on. When I wrote the book, it's not going to be consistent with all the BS. I've heard idiots on social media complaining about no job Rob refusing to put young talent over. Never happened. That's not how the business works. They were going to think that me and Sabu were smoking weed, got arrested, and I got fired from WWE when I was champion. I made a bad decision at that moment when I was on top. None of that is true. I smoked weed the whole way up the ride. At that moment, not only were we not smoking, but I didn't even get arrested. Now, I know I'm going to hear pushback for that because it said I was arrested, but I just found out that I wasn't arrested because I've learned a little bit about the law. What happened was they took our luggage out on the side of the road, and then I drove to the police station, and I gave them some money and I drove away. You can't drive while you're arrested or even detained." During that same show, RVD would address rumors that he suffers from CTE, saying, "People are going to think my brain is fried because of concussions. That's another thing about legacy. People are going to think their brain works better than mine, somehow faster. People think I'm inferior to them because I've had concussions." Because I think if you watch this show, not only can you see that my brain functions fine, and you can also see that I smoke a couple of joints and I don't get baked or effed up. People are going to think I have CTE. That's what they're going to talk about. Of course, I don't have CTE. CTE is a degenerative and worsening thing. I don't have it. I don't even have long-term brain damage except for one thing that one idiot on social media knows about. Not to mention that I went through all the tests and doctors and neurologists, but still it's gonna go down in history because fans are idiots that RVD had CTE and that's why he doesn't wrestle, because they don't care about the truth. Speaking about how his demon persona never got the chance to go up against the late Bray Wyatt's Fiend character, Finn Balor told Cheap Heat with Peter Rosenberg, "Yeah, it was a pretty somber atmosphere in the locker room at a couple of days following the news. A lot of us attended a ceremony in Florida yesterday. Celebrate Bray's life, and sadly that seems to be happening far too often in the business, losing people so young. But hopefully we can continue to make Bray proud. I'm sure that's what he would want, and that's what we intend to do in Nassau. Obviously, I've had the opportunity to work with him a lot as Finn versus Bray, as the Demon versus Bray, as Finn versus the Fiend. The one thing that I'm sad that we didn't ever get to was this Fiend versus Demon match, and that was something that we talked about at length. We were kind of hoping that was going to happen eventually, but it's not to be. Going back to the show must go on, if something was to happen to me, I want you guys to know that I want the show to go on. And I'm sure knowing Bray as well as I do, he definitely wanted the show to go on, and then that's what we've done for him. Mentioning her recent travel issues, WWE's Kayla Braxton wrote online, "Spent an hour on hold to change my flight. They kept coming back on to tell me they were working on the change, so I didn't mind waiting. Imagine my frustration when they finally came back on the line to inform me that the last seat on the flight I wanted was sold during my wait. Also, riddle me this. If I'm booked in a first class seat tomorrow and wanted to give up that seat for a basic economy seat leaving tonight, why would it cost double what my original ticket cost? Make it make sense. Anyway, another day of first world problems." Going over why he never had a match against Bryan Danielson in AEW, Nigel McGuiness told Metro there were some scuttlebutt, some discussion backstage in the upper echelons. he said about a potential match, but as we know, clam digger Bryan Danielson, as he's now being known, decided to have to take a respite because he broke his arm, so now it's not going to happen. I've enjoyed getting back in the ring. I am achy, always pulling this or pulling that. That's not the slightest inclination or a desire to wrestle again, but the ability to do it so that if I had to, I could have done it. That's something I'm very proud. I think it was one of those moments in the universe that you never could have seen. It was like a portal to an impossible reality, and when he gave up because he broke one of his 206 bones, even though he's got 205 that are okay, he closed the portal. So he can go back to wherever he lives, dig up his clams, and live with that. Sticking with Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon announced that his time is running out on his pro wrestling career, as Sports Illustrated added that the announcement is open to some interpretation. Multiple people close to the situation confirmed with Sports Illustrated that Danielson will be stepping away from wrestling full-time in the next year, yet may remain a special attraction for AEW. Talking about the possibility of CM Punk returning to WWE, Eric Bischoff said on his Strictly Business podcast, "If I'm CM Punk and I wake up and have this conversation with myself, and I just look at the clock and the calendar and I go, wait a minute, I've got maybe 3 years left, I could really make a lot of money and go out on a high note in my career, on a positive note, instead of this negative one. If Phil Brooks is the type of man that, first of all, recognizes it and realizes that he's at least 50% responsible for it, if not more, the way he's handled himself and conducted himself. The culture in WWE, I don't think, is going to be such or is such that he's burned too many bridges and there's no way. I don't believe that at all. I believe it's all up to Phil Brooks and how honest he's capable of being with himself and what his goals are. He may have enough money in the bank after this last run to not give a damn. It could be really good. It could be great for WWE. It could be great for him if he's willing to do that. If he's not, then he's just going to fade away and be a cult wrestling star, and nobody will remember him 10 years from now. Staying on the topic of CM Punk, former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. said this on his podcast regarding the former AEW star. "When you keep doing the same thing over and over and you keep blaming everyone else and it's the world's fault, the world ain't gonna change for you or for nobody. The world doesn't owe you It's your responsibility as a human being to find out your place in this world and make the absolute most of it." This is a weird thing, man. I felt really bad for AEW President Tony Khan. I don't think he should have made the statement that he made because he's not a good public speaker at all. And it gives Punk an opportunity to all over him in the first interview outside of this firing. I wish he wouldn't have done that. The letter was enough. You got to, at a certain point, look in the mirror and say, is what I'm doing working? When you have this many years of if not, that should be a clue. He's still, to me, one of the best on the mic, in the ring, all that stuff. I'm not discrediting the man's work, but I think everything you and I have said has been completely fair and appropriate criticism. With CM Punk no longer a part of AEW and no longer on AEW Collision for Saturdays, this was said regarding a new direction for the show, as Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted. "We've heard that there were also ongoing discussions between AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery about the on-screen direction of AEW Collision." For a health update on Hacksaw Jim Duggan following news of his hospitalization and emergency surgery, it was said on his social media page that Jim is resting comfortably. He is on the mend and will be back on his feet soon. Thank you for your prayers, good wishes, and messages. Hacksaw's fans are awesome. Thanks to Jake the Snake Roberts and Cheryl for the beautiful flowers. In a now deleted post on Instagram, Matt Riddle detailed a situation that took place between himself and the JFK airport security, where he said this: "Nothing like being sexually assaulted by an officer and harassed at the JFK airport. No means no, and just because I'm nice doesn't mean yes, a-hole. Don't know their Twitter or Instagram handles, but I took pictures. Normally I'm like whatever, but today was really weird and uncomfortable, and they made a point to make me feel small and useless. Definitely one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had. Thanks NYC, you're so progressive and accepting." Ringside News added more to this, writing Matt Riddle's JFK situation was a bit more than he let on. We were also told by an officer who was on the scene that a few attempts were made to de-escalate this situation before it became physical. Matt Riddle shared his version of the JFK incident today, but an on-site officer contacted us to provide additional details. We were told that Riddle was heavily intoxicated during the incident and likely high on weed. He was also causing a disturbance first. Officers would have never showed up if Matt Riddle's situation didn't warrant it. We were told by an officer who was at the scene that Matt was acting disruptive between his transfer of flights when we received the complaint call. Despite the original post being deleted, the original bro would write this on Instagram along with a photo as it reads, "Finally leaving JFK and I never want to come back here again." It remains to be seen what comes out of this situation, as we'll be sure to keep you updated on the matter. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.